We all feel them. The forbidden, the sinful, the taboo. Behaviors that divide cultures and inspire fear. But our differences may be what make us all human. When you become ill, where do you turn? In whom or what do you put your faith? Many rely on modern Western medicine and take comfort from its high-tech tools and wonder drugs. But what if the cure wasn't a machine or a pill, but a living creature?
It's disgusting, let's face it. Maggots in an open wound, forget it. We'll get a different opinion from a different doctor.
Animals are outside the house, so they are in a sense impure. The idea of taking something from an animal and putting it inside of our bodies or being would seem, just taboo.
Now, journey to South Africa, where traditional healers believe the secret of health lies in the power of animals. Travel to Taiwan, where the doctor's needle may be the stinger of a bee. Come to India, where taking blood takes on a whole new meaning. Visit a hospital in the United States, where the medical marvel is a maggot. And wonder, what kind of creature cure is taboo for you? Would you drink a medicine made from a boiled baboon? Or blow air into a live chicken at the doctor's command?
Oh no, those are disgusting. This is animal parts. No, that's gross.
I would rather die than eat a monkey.
Instead of stethoscopes, scalpels, and antibiotics, there are some doctors who use chicken entrails, monkey hands, and snake heads. Can these creature cures really work? In South Africa, millions of people consult these traditional doctors, called sangomas. To many Westerners, the use of animal body parts in medicines might seem bizarre. But here in South Africa, many people believe that these methods, using animal body parts and herbs, really do work. The remedies include everything from green mamba snakes to ostrich heads, crushed bugs to the beaks of eagles. What seems taboo to outsiders is merely a matter of perspective. Meet Elliot Ndlovu, a Zulu Sangoma from Camberg village in the mountains of KwaZulu-Natal. He believes Western medicines are taboo.
I don't like the modern medicine because this thing coming here from chemicals. As we talk about it, I don't like this thing because chemicals can destroy many things.
Elliot doesn't just use herbs and animal body parts arbitrarily. All Sangomas are guided by the spirits of their ancestors.
To become a traditional doctor, it's a calling that comes from my ancestors. So I was being called before I come to this world. Even if you look at it.
Where Western cultures believe germs to be the cause of sickness, it is the traditional African belief that most illness is caused by witchcraft, or the spirits of displeased ancestors. It is the job of the Sangoma, as a medium between the spirit world and our own, to appease the ancestors, or chase away the evil forces causing the ailment.
In a way, Western science, in which Western medicine is based, is atheistic. The idea of spiritual life or anything like that is simply outside of its province. In other societies, that's not the case.
Gerald Urchak is a professor of anthropology at Skidmore College.
Something wrong with a person's body is probably an indication that there's something wrong with a person's soul or spirit, which in turn might be related to something wrong in the person's social relations.
Today, Samson, one of the older members of the community, comes to Elliot for help.
I've not been well. I'm sick.
He is having problems with pains in his legs. He has difficulty walking and trouble holding things in his hands. Unlike conventional doctors who may prescribe painkillers that patients can pick up at the local pharmacy, Elliot must make the medicine himself. Fortunately, he has the key ingredient, a baboon carcass. It is a traditional African belief that animal qualities can be transferred to the patient.
The baboon is the strongest animal because even its bone is too strong.
To capture the powers of the baboon, a traditional medicine called a muti is made from the skin and tail and mixed with herbs. The limb of the baboon will also be boiled for drinking.
Basically, the most important thing, we need that bone. That's what we need to be boiled.
These mutis will allow Samson's legs to take on the strength of the baboon and ease his pains. This belief is called sympathetic magic.
For example, you might eat monkey if what you needed was to be more active.
Carolyn Marvin is a professor of anthropology at the University of Pennsylvania.
You might eat snake if what you needed was the special characteristics of the snake of cunning. If there is a characteristic of the treatment that seems to correspond with the effect that you'd like to achieve, this is a perfectly reasonable cultural logic to pursue.
Samson inhales and licks the burning baboon mixture while waiting for the limb to boil. The strength of Samson's belief in the powers of the baboon parts already seems to be having an effect.
He said this feels better, he's feeling things going right.
The boiling baboon limb is nearly ready.
So this water should be like a supply. The power for the baboon and some herbs is together there.
Sangomas have lifelong experience with medicinal plants, and many are expert herbalists. But the patient's belief in the Sangoma and his remedies is an important part of the cure. For Samson, it's no different than a Westerner's faith in drugs.
Very few people who go into the doctor's office have a really clear idea of exactly what it is the doctor knows. We simply accept on faith that in our culture, the doctors are the people that are empowered to make these decisions and make these conclusions, and we follow them. That's not different from what other cultures do.
The following morning, Samson returns to Elliot's hut for his checkup. The news is good.
Today is feeling very much better. Much, much better. It's 100%.
Thanks to Elliot's traditional mutis, Samson feels renewed. He busies himself with activities that he would have had great difficulty doing the previous day. Coming up, what's wrong with this patient? The answer may lie in the entrails of a chicken.
Check on the liver.
And later, would you be willing to be stung by bees 60 or 70 times if it might cure your ills? In South Africa, demand for cures involving animal body parts isn't limited to remote rural areas. Today, many of South Africa's people live in modern cities with access to first-world hospitals and medicines. But even here, in the most urban settings, traditional healing holds tremendous sway. Unlike Elliot, with wildlife on his doorstep, Dr. Conrad Chiani, a Sutu Sangoma, lives life in a bustling metropolis. He has come to the heart of Johannesburg to buy herbs and animal parts.
Welcome. You can get anything that you want. Yeah.
Tucked under a highway, this huge muti market supplies ingredients for the thousands of healers still embracing traditional medicine. The range of animal parts is astounding. Carcasses and skulls, beaks and bones, from snakes and lizards to the heads of antelope and elands. It's clear evidence there's a big demand for the services of the Sangomas.
This is the bed I need. It's illegal.
While Dr. Chiani's mutis are traditional, not much else about his practice is. Dr. Chiani's reputation is far-reaching, verging on cult status across much of southern Africa. His office in Mutsi, north of Johannesburg, is a far cry from the rural beginnings of Sangoma. With computers, Xerox machines, secretaries and assistants, he has brought traditional healing into the 21st century. He sees up to 50 patients a day. People from all walks of life make long journeys to visit him, some even traveling from other countries. All of them could avail themselves of modern medical care, but like millions of other people in southern Africa, they prefer to consult traditional doctors.
I feel we are not competing with the modern doctors. I feel in some other instances they are very much superior to us, yet they miss many things out of us. So I feel that we can supplement each other.
Dr. Chiani's consulting rooms look much like conventional doctors' rooms.
Never spoke for 5 years.
But his methods are very different. Instead of reaching for a stethoscope to diagnose what's wrong with his patients, Dr. Chiani throws animal bones.
Bones throwing is the most important one because it's the one we are using to detect what is going on with you.
Some other cultures have a very different relationship to animals and to the natural world than we have. They see the natural world as full of friends who can help them if they call on their powers. Machines are more magical to us, and we ask machines to do a lot of things for us that are very magical. In both cases, something outside ourselves is meant to help us.
Selby Mukangwe, complaining of abdominal pains, has traveled 65 miles to come and see Dr. Chiani.
When I need help, I come here, then he help me. According to my culture and from my roots, my father used to use that motif for me to grow like this.
Through the bones, Dr. Chiani deciphers the messages sent by the ancestors.
This stands for rush in the stomach. Then we normally use a chicken.
Dr. Chiani lacks the tools of the modern medical doctor, such as x-rays, but he has another way of finding out what troubles this man.
The conventional people take you to x-ray. This is our x-ray.
Dr. Chiani's patient blows air into the chicken. This method may seem unusual, but there is a rationale. It is believed Selby's illness will now be inside the chicken.
We believe that everything that is bad from that little boy has been casted in this chicken. Then we are going to check on intestines and check exactly what's going on.
There doesn't appear to be any abnormality with the chicken's stomach. But then, the doctor checks the lungs.
You can see now. It has some rashes. He has a problem with some lungs.
Dr. Chiani does not claim his methods will hold up to scientific scrutiny.
But we don't argue scientifically. We argue traditionally and ancestrally.
The final test of a belief system is whether it works for the people that participate in it. For us, science produces results. We're convinced of that. We see it all the time. This isn't any different from other cultures which have other belief systems which appear to them, as they observe it, to work very effectively.
It's one thing to ingest medicines made from animals, but it's quite another to have living creatures placed on or in you. Particularly when the creatures are ones most people would rather avoid. For example, would you be willing to be stung by bees to cure your ills? As many as 60 times in a day? The Taiwanese city of Changhua is a bustling crossroads for trade, and the pace of modern life can sometimes overwhelm the serene ancient traditions that still thrive here. But today in Changhua and throughout Taiwan, a centuries-old Chinese medical treatment is all the buzz. It's called bee sting therapy. For most of us, an attack by a swarm of stinging insects is the stuff of nightmares and horror movies.
Anything that penetrates our body, we're going to see as an enemy. We're going to classify as an enemy.
Carolyn Rouse is an assistant professor of anthropology at Princeton University.
There are a number of therapies that involve those animals that we classify as enemies and as gross, just because they penetrate our body.
But today in Taiwan, and increasingly in the United States, people from all walks of life are choosing to be stung by bees, often dozens of times in one sitting. Could such a therapy really cure this woman's arthritic hands? Or help this woman to walk? Shorong Chen is battling multiple sclerosis, a disease which slowly causes the body's nerves to deteriorate. It has no cure. A year ago, Shorong was so ill she was confined to a hospital bed, unable to walk.
For 6 months, I was bedridden. I could not move. I would have symptoms of tingling and numbness in my hands. It was excruciating pain.
Shorong also feared that she could no longer be a good wife or mother.
I felt hopeless, needing everyone to take care of me, wondering if I'm a great burden to them.
She was desperate for a remedy.
I had been sick for so long, and there was nothing the doctors could do.
Then Shorong heard about bee sting therapy. There are no medical studies to back up the belief that bee venom can help people with MS. But Shorong was determined to try every possible solution, even if it meant more pain. For help, she turned to Mr. Cheng Yi Chen, a trained master who has practiced bee sting therapy for 12 years. Every week, Mr. Chen and his assistants treat 200 patients and sacrifice 6,000 honeybees. Mr. Chen also insists patients add honey and other bee-related products to their diets. The results, he says, can be astounding.
After treatment with 40 bees, you have less chance to catch cold.
200 bee stings, Mr. Chen says, can cure hemorrhoids, constipation, and bad breath.
After 600 bees, you look 5 years younger than your contemporaries.
But can bee stings really help Shorong Chen fight multiple sclerosis? Shorong began an intensive course of therapy, receiving over 200 stings a week for months on end.
Does this hurt?
Yes, a little.
Honeybees only sting once, and they die soon after. But even separated from the bee, the stinger continues to inject venom into its victim.
It is jumping. Did you see? It is still jumping.
Almost immediately, the poison starts to attack the tissue around the sting. The body responds with a flood of histamines and white blood cells. And soon the area becomes hot, red, swollen, and itchy.
He gives me one sting. I don't even have time to feel the pain before he stings me again, and the pain lasts for 1 hour.
And some risk far more than pain. Allergic reactions affect less than 2% of all people. But for those with a severe allergy to bee venom, just one sting can send the body into anaphylactic shock that, if left untreated, can kill within minutes. But in Taiwan, the therapy is now so accepted that some parents are even willing to sting their children at the peak of health. Could you imagine forcing your child to undergo dozens of bee stings every week? Tingyi Lu is 10, her brother is 8. They're growing rapidly. They're both in excellent health. And like most kids, they're terrified of bees. But once a week, their father gives them a tiny dose of venom from the bee's stinger in each knee. It's enough to make most kids cry. But Mr. Lu sees plenty of reasons for having his children endure the practice. He believes the stings are helping his children fight off everything from bedwetting to the common cold.
All parents wish their children have healthy bodies. I'm no exception. My daughter very rarely catches cold, and her immunity has increased. No one should wait until they are sick to receive treatment. This should be an ongoing therapy to maintain good health.
Mr. Chen believes that both the bee venom and the body's reaction to it help relieve pain and relax stiff joints. And the therapy has a long track record in China. Many think it is based on the 5,000-year-old practice of acupuncture, a proven treatment for pain. Some are even convinced acupuncture was first done with bees instead of needles. Although Mr. Chen sees bee acupuncture as a labor of love, even he once considered it taboo. In fact, like most of us, he was afraid of bees. 30 years ago, Mr. Chen was an executive for a textiles company. Then his wife began to suffer from arthritic pains, so severe she couldn't cook or even stand up straight. None of the treatments Western medicine could offer did much good. But when she told her husband she wanted to get stung by bees, he thought the idea was ridiculous.
Naturally, as an educated man, I was against it. We just did not understand bees.
But Mr. Chen completely changed his mind when he saw his wife's sudden improvement.
After 3 months, her red blood cell count increased. Her headache disappeared. I was so surprised, I decided to dive into this mysterious treatment and collect all the information that I could.
Mr. Chen vowed to devote his life to bringing bee sting therapy to others. It's his way to repay his debt, he says, for his wife's new strength and happiness. Coming up, meet a woman whose passion for bees includes wearing them by the thousands. And later, if you were seeking a cure, would you want a leech sucking your blood? Mr. Chen gets many of the products for his bee therapy practice here at a bee farm in Chonghua, Taiwan. Beekeeper Yuman Huang has long touted the benefits of bees. For 6 decades, her farm has produced beeswax, honey, and other bee byproducts. Some workers here are now so immune to bee venom, they don't wear gloves. As proof of her passion, Yuman is even willing to let tens of thousands of bees crawl all over her body for more than half an hour. They sting her whenever she moves. And before this day is over, she'll be stung 200 times. Enough to kill a small child.
I'm not prone to common colds. I had physical and I passed 108 different tests.
Modern medicine has yet to find proof of these health claims, but advocates of the therapy remain hopeful. In preliminary tests of bee venom, scientists have found potent anti-inflammatory and germ-fighting proteins.
Healers have been in business a long time.
Paul Stoller is a professor of anthropology at Westchester University.
Very often, the products that they use have some chemical properties that affect healing in a way that we could understand. There are people who are healers that know things that we don't know. And it's humbling sometimes.
After 6 months of bee sting therapy, Shorong Chen has seen a dramatic change. She insists the therapy has relieved her multiple sclerosis and given her a new lease on life.
After the bee sting therapy, I can get up by myself. Everyone was really happy.
While most Western-trained doctors would likely say her illness is in remission, Shorong is convinced the stings have helped her walk again. It will take years of study before we'll know whether bee stings can relieve arthritis, or multiple sclerosis, or even the common cold. But whether Shorong's recovery is in her head or her hands and feet, for the first time in more than a year, she feels she can resume living. A therapy many would find taboo is allowing her to face the future with renewed hope. Bee stings are physically painful, but other creature cures may be more disturbing. Creatures that sting are not as feared as those that suck your blood, whether the vampires of legend or the vampire bat, or a slimy creature with a voracious appetite for blood. Dr. Sachin Nandedkar is a man on a mission. And he's crossing the city of Pune to make a rare house call.
There lies a great satisfaction in treating other people's health problems.
But it's not his patient's fractured leg that's brought him here. Rajiv Kedkar also suffers from a chronic skin condition called psoriasis. And though he's eager for Dr. Sachin to ease his suffering, he's more than a little unsettled. Because he knows the cure in this doctor's bag is one that's certain to get under his skin. Leeches. Every year, millions of Indians choose not to visit their country's modern medical clinics. Instead, they seek traditional healers like Dr. Sachin, who use leeches as part of an ancient system of medicine called Ayurveda. Its holistic approach to treating illness includes dietary changes, curative oils, massages and relaxation therapies, and leeches.
They treat the person as a whole entity. The person is not a set of symptoms, the person is a being. And they put the person in a system of belief that is total, in a sense.
For Dr. Sachin, the results speak for themselves.
Leech therapy always show us positive results. There are few moments in hundreds of patients that the leech therapy cannot succeed.
Others in India agree.
Leeches can be used for a variety of diseases and even for preventing diseases.
It's a very good treatment. It has no side effects. And in a very short time, you get good results.
But even here, leeches are often taboo.
The whole point of having leeches stuck to your body and having a therapy of that, I think, is really madness, you know. If I see a leech, I can't stand it. I won't even go near it. I would try it only if, there is nothing in the world that can save me from whatever I'm going through.
A leech is a quintessentially disgusting animal. First of all, it eats blood. Blood is itself an offensive substance, and it sucks it out of an animal. That's not nice. And then it's slimy. It's loaded with characteristics that would make it a frightening entity.
So why would anyone voluntarily allow himself to become a meal for a blood-sucking leech? Rajiv is convinced this leech will actually provide relief for his psoriasis. He's tried Western medicine and it hasn't worked.
The doctor himself told me this will never permanently be cured. There is no medicine for this. There is only temporary relief. And it has side effects. That's why I turned elsewhere, to Ayurveda.
According to Ayurveda, diagnoses aren't based on changing scientific data, but on the immutable teachings of ancient Hindu scholars.
The notion of healing and spirituality and religion have always been interconnected. There are all sorts of psychological and anthropological studies that demonstrate that anything that gives a person a sense of well-being triggers immune response in the body.
Ayurveda not only seeks to cure disease, but to rejuvenate a patient's body and mind.
If you want to treat a disease from the root level, Ayurveda is the only system.
Dr. Sachin and his wife, Dr. Kirti Nandetkar, apply this unique perspective when they prescribe treatment. In certain cases, like Rajiv's psoriasis, they believe a patient's ailments stem from toxins or impurities in the blood.
Basically, it is the Ayurvedic concept, not in modern science.
Ayurveda insists that leeches naturally remove toxic blood from the body.
We just apply the leech to the local part of body which is affected to take out the blood impurities. The method is quite natural and 0% of harm is there.
But not necessarily for the leech. Blood impurities are said to be as dangerous to these parasites as they are to the patient. So Ayurvedic doctors douse their leeches in turmeric powder to get them to expel the toxic blood.
We just make the leeches to vomit because she cannot digest the impure blood.
Though these methods may seem bizarre to many, leech therapy isn't peculiar to India. Leeching was once a common remedy in Western medicine, before modern science took root and replaced most traditional cures. But in many cultures, modern Western medicine hasn't completely displaced other methods of healing.
When you confront a Western medicine, it is very institutionalized. The patient is often treated like a number, and a lot of people find that disconcerting, to say the least. So they might seek alternate paths to feeling better.
Dr. Sachin is optimistic that people's faith in leeches will continue to hang on.
Patients coming to our clinic are always crazy to see the leeches in our clinic. They always asking questions about leeches.
By embracing this taboo treatment, patients keep an ancient cure alive and well.
The results of Ayurveda will be forever. That science will never end.
Whether it's a brief bee sting or a lingering leech, these are superficial remedies. But the more intimate the contact, the more unsettling the idea becomes. And there are some creature cures that can literally get under your skin. They are the stuff of nightmares. They dwell in filth and feed on decay. But maggots might also be the next thing your doctor pulls out of his medicine bag. How would you feel about having hundreds of creepy crawlies placed into an open wound and left there for 2 days to eat your flesh?
Maggots in open wound, that would be a little bit too disgusting for me, I think.
I might want to be knocked out if they would do that to me personally, just so I'm not gonna watch it. That's pushing it a little too far. Yeah, I don't think I can do it.
Maggots tend to feed on decay. So that, if you're associated with something disgusting, you're disgusting. If you're disgusting, you're likely to be taboo.
Maggots are the larvae of another creature with an image problem, the fly. In nature, flies lay their eggs in rotting flesh, so the maggot hatchlings won't have to stray far to find food. This taste for dead flesh is what makes maggots taboo. But it also makes them perfect for use in medicine. Here in Wichita, Kansas, at the Wesley Medical Center's Midwest Center for Wound Healing, a new patient has come to try maggot therapy for the very first time.
Application removal of your maggots, okay.
Cindy Kennedy suffers from diabetes. 4 months ago, she had an abscess taken from her abdomen that left a gaping wound.
It takes so much longer to heal on me because I'm obese, and the other reason is because I'm a diabetic.
Conventional procedures are causing her so much pain that she can't cope.
The pain is so intense that it's just unbearable.
But if the wound is left untreated, infection might spread throughout her body and she could die. The solution? To place hundreds of live maggots into the wound. The secret lies in their eating habits. These maggots eat only dead flesh and leave healthy tissue alone. Dr. Terence McDonald has been prescribing maggot therapy for 4 years.
The maggots are a kind of a cleaning device for these wounds. Not only do they remove the dead tissue, which removes the food source for the bacteria, then their saliva has antibacterial effects.
Maggots can heal all kinds of difficult wounds, like those caused by bed sores, diabetes, and amputations. When expensive drugs and painful surgical procedures don't work, maggots often do the trick, salvaging limbs and even saving lives. But to Cindy, the thought of maggots feasting on her body doesn't necessarily sound appetizing.
I'm like, God, that is gross, but they say it really gets the job done, so I'm willing to try anything. People who are chronically ill or in a tremendous amount of pain are willing to try a lot of things that people who are healthy would just cringe at, maggots included. Hi. We have your little friends here. Yeah. So I'm very nervous. Really?
We'll get the maggots on today and have you back on Thursday, huh?
Okay.
The 2-millimeter long larvae are specifically bred for use at wound care facilities. These maggots are newly hatched, and they're famished.
They're already just going like crazy.
If they can clean up the green and black decaying flesh, they might save Cindy from having it surgically removed. Before the day is done, she'll have as many as 700 maggots placed in her wound. For 48 hours, the hungry maggots will feed on her diseased flesh. And when they've finished feasting, they'll grow to 5 times their original size.
We wait 48 hours. The maggots will ingest the dead tissue, and when she comes back in, hopefully we'll see nice red, leafy red tissue.
Cindy will return in 2 days to see if the maggots have been able to help heal her wound. Coming up, where do medical maggots come from? It's a labor of love for this man.
We don't treat the flies like pets. I like to think we treat them better than pets. They're like our colleagues.
In a hospital in Wichita, Kansas, Cindy Kennedy has had to get used to the idea of having maggots placed in her wounds. But using maggots to treat wounds isn't new. The medicinal use of fly larvae was first seen in the United States during the Civil War. Battlefield doctors noted that soldiers with maggot-infested wounds fared remarkably well. So, the maggots were called to duty. However, with the widespread use of antibiotics in the 1940s, maggots were shelved, and the taboo was reinforced in the medical community.
Doctors are very anxious about alternative medicines because it's not something that they learned in school. It's not something that's been validated.
When we use low-tech kinds of stuff, even though it might work, it doesn't look advanced. It doesn't look high-tech. And it symbolically contaminates the perception of the hospital. It just seems medieval.
But the rise of antibiotic-resistant bacteria is making doctors across the globe take a second look. You can't just buy maggots from your local pharmacy. The larvae that are working on Cindy's wound began their life at a tiny lab at the University of California in Irvine. Here, Ron Sherman tends to his brood of over 20,000 green bottle flies.
We don't treat the flies like pets. We treat them better than pets. They're like our colleagues. We wouldn't be able to do what we do without them.
Ron is an entomologist who runs one of just 4 facilities worldwide that produce sterile maggots.
These flies lay eggs naturally on cadavers, on smelly, putrid, rotting meat rather than fresh meat. And so we try and provide that same stimulus to collect the eggs.
Rotting liver is placed in the cages, and after just a few hours, thousands of eggs are waiting to be collected.
We harvest probably 100,000 eggs per week. The eggs that we collect are disinfected chemically and then placed in sterile vials, and we can then send those maggots out to anywhere in North America where they request them.
Back in Wichita, Cindy returns to the clinic to see if the maggots have cleaned out her wound.
Cindy, they did a good job. They did a good job.
Yes. A lot of these areas are really a lot cleaner. The tissue that I can see in there is all pink. Now, it's improved quite a lot.
But for Cindy, even a medical miracle is not enough to overcome her taboo for creepy-crawly creatures.
Yeah, it's scary, especially if you have a fear of bugs. They was only doing their job. I mean, I can understand that, and I appreciate that. But I'm glad it's over with.
It remains to be seen if Cindy and the rest of the world can overcome their taboo against maggots.
If it had more acceptance, we'd certainly use it more.
If they can overcome their taboo reputation, these creatures of death may keep eating their way to saving lives. There are many animals that most people would rather keep at a distance. The closer they come, the more unsettling they are. But many creature cures bring these distasteful animals into intimate contact with our bodies. Small wonder that many would rather forego such treatment. But illness can cause people to consider alternatives outside their region of comfort and inside the world of the taboo.